I think the most important thing is to let the police carry out their investigation. We need to make sure that we do things in the right order. And what I actually see is a lot of politicians talking about this because it distracts from the real issue, which is what the Prime Minister did with Peter Mandelson. Everyone forgets about that because they're distracting. Oh, look over here. Let's all talk about Prince Andrew. We're supposed to have releases of the Mandelson files. It looks like he did worse. We need to investigate that. Prime Minister has not released those documents. I think he'd much rather that we were talking about Prince Andrew than talking about him. But my job as the leader of the opposition, my job is to hold the Prime Minister to account, not the royal family. And the Prime Minister still has a lot of questions to answer.
I don't think you want to be at risk of minimising what Andrew Mountbatten Windsor is accused of or being investigated
the right
for.
place is for the police. I'm not carrying out the police investigation. They need to do their job. If he's done something wrong and if he's found guilty, then yes, that should happen.
It's not the police's job to decide the line of succession.
No,
that's a matter for Parliament.
But it's the police's job to find out if anything wrong has happened.
But we don't think have happened which are wrong. He was stripped of his role as trade envoy. That was wrong.
Yes.
Clearly things have been wrong. It's Parliament's job.
Not wrong to strip him of his trade envoy job, you mean, when you say...
So it is Parliament's job, especially the opposition, to hold the government to account, to make sure that the laws are right. Yes, we could strip Andrew Mountbatten of his succession. I wouldn't be opposed to that.
So you would support it?
But let's be honest. He's eighth in line. There's 7 people, including some very little children. This is not something that's going to make a difference in terms of how we are governed, how we are run. What is the Prime Minister doing? Why did he appoint Mandelson? There are many more serious questions to be asked about that.
I think it's interesting that you're describing it as a distraction. Kemi Badenoch, I'm sure, we've just spoken to a sexual assault survivor who says that this is a victory, even though this arrest hasn't been on the other accusations.
The arrest is not a distraction. The Prime Minister talking about it is. If he's been arrested, there needs to be an investigation. Actually talking about these things could prejudice those. Let's make sure that the police have the space to do their job. And I know it's very interesting from a news perspective to talk about should he be removed from the line of succession. It's very fun. It's celebrity gossip.
I don't think that people are enjoying this or finding it fun.
Precisely. Let's look at what the thing that matters is. What did the Prime Minister know? Where are the files? What happened there? That is a much more serious thing.
Yeah.
But because it is not about the royals getting a lot less attention, it is far more serious what Peter Mandelson did over a much longer period of time and a much more senior job. I was the former trade secretary. A trade envoy is a minor job. Prince Andrew was given that job to open doors. It looks like there's misconduct in public office. But right now, I need to talk about... Yes, exactly. Right now, I need to talk about what's happening to the lives of people out there. Removing the line of succession from the person eighth in line to the throne is not going to make a difference to your viewers' lives.
But can I ask, to talk about. Do you not... To me, there is a shift right now in public perception of the royal family. And a lot of people saying it's about time they were not above scrutiny, above parliamentary investigation. I mean, your former security minister, Tom Tugendhat, is calling for a parliamentary investigation into both Peter Mandelson's and Andrew's links to Epstein. This goes beyond what a court could reasonably consider. Parliament must consider what it means for the country. If the worst is proved, do we need to revisit treason laws written 700 years ago? Just some sympathy with what your own colleague, Tom Tugendhat, thinks.
I think Tom makes some very interesting points. But the fact of the matter is, step 1, police investigation. Parliament right now barely has time to look at the things that are going through today. Let's focus on the Mandelson files. Parliament's got to look at that. We are talking about thousands of documents. There's barely enough time. Let us stop getting distracted by everything that's going on elsewhere. Let's do our jobs. And right now, my job is to hold the government to account. And in terms of, the reputation of the monarchy, what I actually think is that the way the king has behaved has been exemplary. This is his brother we're talking about. He hasn't tried to cover up anything. He didn't do what Keir Starmer did, saying, Peter Mandelson is actually a really all right guy. I have full confidence in him. He's not trying to cover up any files. The king, compared to the Prime Minister, has shown exactly what should be done when you're in positions of power. And I think that's the biggest lesson that we can take from this. Perhaps Keir Starmer should look at His Majesty and learn some lessons there.
British politics like this one. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the British I Believe It, or not over 98% of viewers watch our content without hitting the follow button. Subscribing is completely free. This wasn't just another TV debate. This was a calculated political pivot. The conversation starts with Prince Andrew, questions about succession, scrutiny, and whether Parliament should step in. On the surface, it looks like a discussion about royal accountability. But very quickly, the focus shifts. Instead of staying on Andrew, Kemi Badenoch turns the spotlight straight onto Keir Starmer and the so-called Mandelson files. And that shift is deliberate. Badenoch's argument is clear. Yes, if there's been wrongdoing, let the police investigate. Yes, Parliament can look at matters of succession. But she insists that removing someone who is eighth in line to the throne is politically insignificant. It doesn't change how the country is governed. It doesn't affect people's daily lives. According to her framing, the real issue isn't royal gossip, it's government accountability. That's where the attack lands. She reframes the entire discussion as a distraction. In her view, focusing heavily on Prince Andrew risks drawing attention away from serious questions about what the Prime Minister knew, what files exist, and why certain appointments were made. By pivoting to what did the Prime Minister know, she attempts to move the debate from symbolic royal consequences to potential political responsibility. This is classic opposition strategy. Instead of defending or getting trapped in a narrow royal debate, she widens the battlefield. She implies that the government may benefit from the media spotlight being fixed on a royal scandal rather than uncomfortable questions about its own conduct. Whether that claim holds weight is another matter, but strategically, it forces the government onto defensive ground. At the same time, there's another layer here: public perception of the monarchy. There is clearly a shift happening. Many people feel that members of the royal family should not be shielded from scrutiny. The idea that they are above investigation is increasingly rejected. That sentiment cuts across party lines. But Badenoch draws a sharp distinction. She praises King Charles' handling of the matter, portraying him as restrained, transparent, and not interfering. She contrasts that with what she frames as Starmer's lack of clarity. That comparison isn't accidental. It paints the monarch as measured and the Prime Minister as evasive. It's a bold contrast. The broader question, though, is whether this is truly a distraction or simply overlapping crises. Politics rarely moves in straight lines. Multiple controversies can exist at the same time. Royal scrutiny and government transparency are not mutually exclusive conversations. However, perception matters enormously in politics. If voters feel that attention is being manipulated, that headlines are being steered away from uncomfortable truths, that can damage trust. On the other hand, if the opposition appears to be exploiting a serious investigation purely for political gain, that can also backfire. There's also an institutional tension at play here. Police investigations must proceed independently. Parliamentary inquiries are political. Media narratives amplify both. When all three collide, law enforcement, politics, and royal symbolism, things get complicated very quickly. So what are we really watching? We're watching a struggle over narrative control. Is the government overwhelmed by controversy and benefiting from royal headlines? Or is the opposition trying to manufacture suspicion where none has yet been legally established? That's the dividing line. One thing is certain: this exchange shows how modern political debate works. Rarely does anyone stay confined to the original question. Instead, politicians use interviews as launchpads, not to answer, but to redirect. And in this case, the redirection was sharp, intentional, and aggressive. Now the real test won't be in television studios. It will be in whether evidence emerges